So I've been waiting. You know the Sunday night football song. I'm waiting all day for a Sunday night. Blah blah. I've been waiting all year for tomorrow night. John Forslund and the Seattle Kraken are at PNC Arena. That means I get a chance to see John in person because he lives all the way on the other side of the country now, most of the time. He spends summers here. And I appreciate John Forslund still being willing to come on this program and talk hockey with me. Sir, welcome. How are you?
Great to hear your voice, Adam. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. You guys score a lot of goals.
Yeah, that's the object of the game, you know.
Look, I've been watching a team that is under 3 goals per game basically all year. I'm not sure that's the object all the time. So what is it like to call a game where the final score is 9-8?
Oh, that was an incredible experience. Obviously, something I've never been through in my career. Usually when it's a high-scoring game, it's a blowout, right? A 7-2, 8-1, something like that. But the way that game went back and forth, and we went a span. The longest we went between goals in that game was 5 minutes and 46 seconds of playing time. And so it was always happening. There was always something going on. There was always a replay rip of the previous scoring scoring chances. It was just a wild night in Los Angeles, and that's something I'll never forget.
I mean, that is tremendous. You guys also won a game where you scored 8. Look, we saw you guys in the third game of the season, and I don't think Seattle played all that well in that particular game. But obviously, when you've got Burakovsky and Jordan Eberle and Matty Beniers, absolutely. You could tell then that there was tons of ability. Is he better in year one than you thought he would be?
He really is. He's a burgeoning star. He's the favorite, I think, for Rookie of the Year. And and the thing about him is he went through a period maybe 2 weeks ago where he didn't have a point in 6 games. And usually a 20-year-old player, rookie player, will start cheating a little bit offensively, start cheating himself and the team, to try and score and put himself in a bad defensive position. And that didn't happen. And he continued to work hard, make defensive plays, make contributions, works hard every day to improve in the face-off circle. And lo and behold, he picked up his scoring again. So the key with the Kraken this season is scoring balance. They're not going to knock your socks off with elite star players yet, but they do have 4 lines when they're on. They all have potential to score. And if you look at the score sheet and you look at the balanced scoring that they have, they're among the league leaders at that, even from the defense position. And they've had pretty good continuity until now on the back end. They've got a suspension and some injuries, and it's kind of creeping into their defensive core. But overall, this is ahead of the curve, I think, to be fair. It's been a good start, 16 wins. They've been exceptional on the road. They have 9 of those wins on the road. But tomorrow night, they're playing a really, really good team, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, Carolina defensively has been, especially of late, has been very good. Although Carolina is not used to playing at home, John. They have only played consecutive home games once. It's my math tells me we're in the middle of December. I find it amazing they have only played consecutive home games once, and since tomorrow is not a home game, I have no idea what to expect.
Well, you can cry me a river on that stuff. You're talking to someone that works for Seattle, right? And if you look at the travel in the West and you look at what these Western teams go through, for someone who spent his entire career in the Eastern Conference, you actually, even though I went and did national games in the Western Conference, until you start going through the scheduling matrix and how they travel, it's very easy. I know that the Canes have been on the road a great deal, and they've done a great job with that portion of their schedule, but they will recover from it quicker. They will get to a portion of their schedule in the second half where they're home a lot. But the East puts you in a spot where you can always jet home like they did, before the Detroit game. I think they did, right? And get out of an area, come home, get in your environment, get back on the road again. You can do that. In the West, you can't do that. I mean, when the Kraken get on the road, it's 2 weeks at a time. And even in the division, you're going a 2.5-hour flight, 2:45 down to Southern California to play in the division. Mm-hmm. So it's a different ball game.
Let me ask you about one of the road games you guys had. This probably goes back 3 weeks or so. And I think for a lot of people, we're talking with John Forslund, a voice of the Seattle Kraken, a lot of people didn't expect, especially after last year, they thought it would be a normal run for an expansion team. They didn't expect you guys to be as good as you are this year. And second in the division, you go to Vegas, who was like off to an incredible start, and you win the game in Vegas. What is that like? What does that tell this team about what expectations should be for this year?
Well, it's funny. I had a chat with Ron Francis the other day, and after that game, he was in a situation where he had crossed paths with Kelly McCrimmon, the GM of the Vegas Golden Knights, and he said that when Seattle came in, they hadn't seen a team play them like that. And I think what he meant by it was, again, if the Kraken are on their toes, and they were not last night, if they are tomorrow night, you're going to see a strong checking game in 3 zones of the ice, and it comes in waves. And the Canes can do that too. Mm-hmm. Where the Kraken are a little bit different is they don't have the skill. They don't have the individual skill of a Svechnikov and Aho when he's healthy, Natchez, those types of players, Jarvis. They don't have that. But they do have, Burge, like we've talked about, Beniers and other veteran guys, Jordan Eberle, Andre Burakovsky, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Jaden Schwartz. You go down the list, these are really good second, third line players in the NHL, and they have 12 of them. And sometimes that can overwhelm another team because the teams that are a little bit top-heavy can't deal with it. And that's how the Kraken have been able to win games. And they're a little heavier too. They lean on you. They like to play physical. They have a couple defensemen that will step up and make big hits. Adam Larson, Alexiak, although he'll be suspended for tomorrow's game. Even a kid like Vince Dunn plays with a snarl. So you have to have that in the West. The West is a little bit different than the East, and that's how they play. So for the Kraken so far, so good. Again, but it's reinforced by the fact that they have a mighty challenge at the end of a road trip tomorrow.
John Forslund joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. All right, I'm going to ask you to put your national hat on here for a couple of things. Yeah. Alexander Ovechkin, 800 goals, one behind Gordie Howe. He is only another 93 after that away from Wayne Gretzky. So probably not this year, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. The projections are not for this year, no, and not for next year. Probably in early 24, I think. The last thing I saw with people predicting these things. But with him, look what he did last night. You never know.
I mean, he's obviously a special player for a lot of reasons, but he's got a great shot. But I look at the way he plays the game as a difference maker. I mean, a lot of guys with that shot. But he plays the game with such a joy, to use a kind of a soccer term. But he just has so much fun doing it.
Well, he's really evolved too because it's funny when Crosby and Ovechkin came into the league back in 2005, they both came in with power in different ways, right? So I think Sidney Crosby has been the hardest working superstar in terms of how he plays, if you understand what I'm saying. He's like a superstar grinder. That's how he's always played. And Alex came into the league with this big time hitting presence, trying to throw guys through the end boards, get himself in trouble, get himself walking the line of possible suspensions. Then there was some indifferent play when he was a young kid, and people in the media, the NHL, the national media, took some shots at him. He had to grow up a little bit. He had to learn how to play. They had to figure out which side of the ice was better for him. As a right-handed shot, he's far better on the left side and always has been than on the conventional right wing side. And I think it has a lot to do with the angles of his shots and where he wants to shoot from. But all of these players have not only unbelievable athletic ability, but they're different than what we see today with Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, Sebastian Aho. Players like this play it differently. This is why Ovechkin will be a unique goal-scoring superstar because he's in there with Gordie, and I think to be fair here, he plays a little bit like Gordie Howe. because Gordie Howe was a powerful guy. He was naturally strong. He had these Popeye forearms. He could shoot from all over. And he was really, really downright edgy and really dirty to play against, at times. And Ovechkin has brought some of that. But these other players that we see now don't have that power dynamic. And because of that, as time has marched on, he's been able to evolve and not have to put himself in those spots where he could get hurt. Now he gets the room. He's got the presence. He's got the reputation. He's still 245 pounds, 6'3", 245. He's just this big block of a human being. And but he gets to areas where he obviously can snipe from. The power play is a whole nother story. Nobody has scored more power play goals than he. And he's been a really good representative for the organization. I mean, as a Russian, that has a lot of situations that, especially today, are difficult to navigate, but not for them, not for the team, not for anybody that's played with him, not the things that I've heard about him in the Washington market, in the community, what he's been able to do. So good for him. I think everybody's excited to watch this now, and he's really close to more history.
All right, we are a third of the way through the season. The New Jersey Devils, are they off to a hot start, or are they legitimately one of the best teams in the East?
Well, I think this is long enough. I mean, any team that's, throws out a record like this. Now, they've gone 3 games where they've had some trouble here. And you have to see how they bounce back from a situation like this. The team that I cover, they had lost 3 in a row, and then they rolled into Florida and won and kind of reestablished their identity. And everybody thought, that's a good sign. And then they slipped again last night in Tampa. But that's what you look for with these teams that you don't think were going to be as good as they are now. How do they handle a dip in their schedule where they're not getting those results? The time now for the Devils is now. But they didn't get off to a great start. They were calling for Lindy Ruff's job at one point.
They were 3-3.
But the people in the analytic world were pointing to some numbers that were suggesting, and that's the good thing about analytics, that can tell you in hockey how a team's playing without the result. And those numbers were pretty good for New Jersey in the early going when they were calling for Lindy's head, and then the fans had to apologize, right? So they're fast. They play with an extreme rate of speed, and again, you're seeing players just scratching the surface, like Jack Hughes. It's just starting for him. He's going to be an unbelievable superstar, but he's not alone. They've got a tremendous amount of firepower, and the goalkeeping is holding up.
Yeah.
And they really don't have Mackenzie Blackwood, and they haven't had him all season. So Vanacek's done the job. The young kid's done a good job supporting him. So it's a team there, and our good friend Dougie Hamilton's having a nice season after a tough one last year with injuries, and he just couldn't find his stride.
Yeah, no, Dougie's having a really good year. I think that team is good. I think they, when you draft as high as they've drafted over the last several years, you can't help but become good. But also, I think some additions like Andre Palat just help in so many other ways. I think the addition of John Marino has helped them a lot on the back end. I think they're a good team.
Well, you're right, and quickly, the thing to remember here is look what Edmonton did for years, right? It took them a long time with all those first-round picks. So New Jersey, in I think a quicker period of time, is able to get those draft choices in a position where they make a difference.
All right, final thing for you, John Forslund. This is your second trip back. Last year, I know what it meant to you. I've spoken to you about it. I think you told me that it was one of your most memorable games you have ever done. Is tomorrow just a game, or do you think you'll still have some of those feelings?
No, it's never just a game here. No. It's there's too much. There's too much here, and it's still here, and we're still here. And the schedule is a lot kinder to me in the regular season than it was last year, where it was a back-to-back. And my phone died in the morning, and I spent all day going from one phone store to another trying to fix it so I get over to the rink and call the game, and then we blew out of town. So that wasn't really a lot of fun. This one here will be good. It's a nice off day today. Game obviously tomorrow. Then I'm going to stay Friday for my youngest 19th birthday, which is Friday. We'll all celebrate as a family. So that's really good. And then I'll get back to Seattle. And of course, as you know, I did playoff games here too. But that's kind of different because you come in on a national and you're you're working both sides of the equation. You're calling it down the middle, as I try to do anyway, but you're serving both sides when you do a national playoff game. Here, it's a Kraken game, right? So it is different when you come in and you're actually calling the game for the team that's trying to beat the Hurricanes. That's where it gets weird. That's where I still am not comfortable going in the visitor's booth. I'm not comfortable, being in and around it. It just doesn't feel the same. But it's okay. I mean, I'm excited. It'll be a lot of fun, and the fans here have been so good to me since I left, and there'll always be a bond with me, I hope, and that's where it is.
Are you kidding me? Yes, there will always be a bond with you, John. There always. So. Oh, of course. I mean, oh man, now I want wings. Come on.
Yeah, well, that's why I do. Yeah, well, that's why the good people at Buffalo Brothers, they keep me going here. Yeah. So.
Oh man, I can't wait to see you tomorrow night. I'll be up there on the 5th floor, and we'll barge in. We'll disrupt the broadcast. I thank you so much.
You come right in. There'll be 3 of us there. We got Edzo tomorrow night. So
very nice.
There's always room for you.
All right.
Okay.
I'll see you later.
All right. Bye, Adam.
John Forslund, voice of the Seattle Kraken.
Love it.
Look, this is not about anybody else, right? It's always going to be the connection. I've said this before. And at some point, where John Forslund's going to be in the Carolina Hurricanes Hall of Fame. But Rod Brindamore is the most significant person that has ever been part of this organization. There's no second place to that. But for 20 years, more actually, John Forslund was essentially the voice, not only the voice of the team, but the biggest connection between the team and its fans. So the growth of the sport here in North Carolina, obviously the performance on the ice, getting to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2002, winning it in 2006, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2009, all of that. Though winning on the ice is the most important thing, and we'd be kidding ourselves if we thought it wasn't. But you don't always win on the ice. But the growth of the game and the growth of the team on the fans and the fan base in the area has to continue even when you don't win. And that's where the John Forslunds of the world come in. Wouldn't be this without John.
No.
Would not be this at all without him.